Hello, I'm Andy Jenks. I'm one of the instructors in FNRM 5131, Introduction to GIS and Natural Resource Management. I teach the class with my colleague Paul Bolstead, and Paul can be reached at pbolstead@umn.edu, and the email is probably the best way to reach Paul. His office is 301J Green Hall. Now, my office is 215 Green Hall, just the floor below Paul, and my email is ajenks@umn.edu, and email is probably the best way to reach us. Now, Paul's office hours are by appointment only, so you'd want to contact him through the email and set up some appointment. My office hours, I have scheduled office hours, and my office hours are in 215 Green, and they're from 12 o'clock to 1:50 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and from 8 to 9 on Wednesday evenings via Google Hangout. Now, Google Hangout, the link is on the class website. There's a link to how to activate the Google Hangout. Now, I'm also in the lab. I'll be covering all the lab sessions, so you could come into any lab session if you wish to see me. Now, the purpose of this video today is to talk a little bit about mechanics and grading and talk a little about contents and motivation. Now, most of you have been encountering spatial data and for a long time, perhaps through your smartphone, the Apple Maps and the Google Maps and those types of things that are available on the mobile technology have introduced many people to maps, and that maybe you've seen some of the virtual reality maps and some of those options. But so the people now, especially our students, are starting to be exposed to a lot more spatial data because of the mobile technology. But what we're trying to do in the class is to help you develop a conceptual understanding of that that spatial data, spatial analysis, and help you develop a toolkit, develop and use a toolkit to organize and solve spatial problems. And now the toolkit we're using, there's a best practices for it, because there's different ways you can use this, some that are positive and some that are a little more productive than others, and some that aren't so good. So we're trying to help you learn to organize and solve spatial problems with this toolkit, this introductory course that covers the concepts and the basic skills. Now, if you were to continue in ArcGIS beyond our introductory class, we would be getting into more complex concepts, and I'm just mentioning one of them here because of Hurricane Harvey in Texas, that GIS is commonly used not just for the basic introductory work we're covering in this class, but also to move a little further in an intermediate or advanced sense where you're actually using the spatial data and the analytical process to predict things like hurricanes or forest fires or how oil spill is handling. But for our introductory class, we're focusing on just basic conceptual understanding and basic spatial analysis. Now, the important thing to remember here is that the class is offered both an online and in-person, and the material is the same for both offerings. And you can come to the lecture, and Paul generally does the lectures at 3 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, though sometimes I'll cover them. I cover the lab sessions always on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And but the class is online or in person, and it's the same both ways. And the reason it is because the reason it works so well is because it was written around a textbook that Paul wrote specifically for this class. And Paul and I have been teaching this class together for the past 17 years, and that the textbook really helps pull all this information together. Now, this textbook covers the concepts. Our lab exercises actually help apply those concepts. And the students can access the information online or in person, or a combination of the two. For example, you could come to the online sessions, you access the information online, and then come to the in-person section also, or vice versa, or some mix of the two. It all depends on you, but you don't need to change your registration. If, for example, you come to the in-person lectures, you say, hey, I can get it from the text and the online material, then you just complete the work online. You don't need to change your registration. We'll report the grade back to whatever you had registered, whether it be the online sections or the in-person sections. And it's the same material. Now, the class textbook is very, very important. And it's important you get the 5th edition. As I said, we've been teaching this class for a long time. Paul wrote the book back in the 2001, 2002, and there have been many different editions of this. This is the 5th we're working with, and the 5th edition has about 100 pages that are different from the 4th edition. So get the right edition so that you could stay with the course material. Now, this text is used by about 300 or 400 colleges and universities around the world. So it's really a very good fundamental concepts textbook for GIS. And then we combined it with our lab material. Now, the lab material, the labs are all using this software, ArcGIS. Now, ArcGIS is the main software that's used for business and industry and governments around the world. And that this is the software you'll need for your research. This is the software you'll need for jobs in the workplace. It's the main software. Now, there are other products, and we'll talk about them as we go through the class, but this is the best one for teaching, is ArcGIS. And we've got 3 different ways you can access it. You can access it all these different ways if you want to, in some combination. You can come into the lab sessions, and I'll be there in every one of the lab sessions, and you could use the lab computer and go through the labs there and ask questions. That's sort of a traditional way to do it. You could also, and this is the sort of the best approach, I think, is to use the virtual network to connect to the university computer system and use ArcGIS through that browser, through a browser on your Mac or your Windows computer, from wherever you are accessing the university and running ArcGIS through that browser. So the ArcGIS would actually run on the university computer and you would see it through your browser and operate it through your browser. Now, there's another approach which is to actually install the software standalone on your computer at home. And I'll give you a link and some download information for a free 1-year edition of ArcGIS that you could install on your home computer. Now, that would run unconnected to the university. Now, the problem with installing it on the home computer, the actual ArcGIS software actually installed on your home computer, is that it only runs Windows. So if you're using a Mac, you have to install Windows on your Mac. And so for most Mac users, the virtual connection into the university is the best approach. But I just want to mention we do have that other option of a 1-year software that you could install on your home computer. Now, you can install the home computer and use it through the virtual and also come into the lab. All of the above works. It's just you want to choose what's best for you. Now, class mechanics. We have lectures every week. We have labs every week. And if you're in the online program, you would access the material online for that week and you'd complete the lab online. If you're you're coming into the in-person, you come into the in-person. It's the same material. It's just however the approach you choose. Now, we've got tests every couple of weeks. The tests cover a couple of chapters each time, and you'll want to use the Moodle connection to do the tests. So all the tests are online, and you do them through Moodle. And you also submit all your assignments through Moodle. So the best way to handle the course is look at the syllabus, look at the course website, and do the readings and look at the lectures and labs ahead of time, the week before. Get the material, a good understanding of it, and then proceed through the week, completing the assignment and turn it in through Moodle. And everything's available through the class website. Now, this is the class website. The link is at the bottom, FNRM 5131. If you just Google FNRM 3131, you can see it pops right up. It's so heavily used. And it's a web page that has a syllabus, has a link to the Moodle site, and also has a lab page where all the lab activities go on. And this web page is organized by week. So here's the first week, here's the second week, so on. And here's the chapters, the readings, here's all the lecture material. And there's some supplemental interesting material, and then there's the reference to the lab and what's due that week. So you can see what's going on week by week. And the first week we're working on the first 2 chapters. Now, the syllabus for the class gives you a lot of good information about grading. You want to read through that very carefully. Look for the links to getting the textbook, either from the Student Center or from, it's also on reserve in the Natural Resource Library in Hodgson. But you really want to get access to the book. Look through the syllabus material. Now, the class website also points to a lab page, the Moodle page, and the lab page. And the lab page, this is the lab page for FNRM 5131. It's also organized by week. And here's what you do for the first week. Now, the first week we're working on Lab 1. And here's the instructions, the step-by-step, a PDF, step-by-step of the instructions for ArcGIS. There's a little summary overhead there too. And then there's videos, and you can watch me do the video step-by-step in little pieces. And here's the data. You bring the data down and unzip it, and then use it with these instructions. And you can use ArcGIS in the lab, you could use it virtually, or you could use it installed standalone at home. So there's some instructions about downloading and extracting. There's also a class assignment that all the graduate students have to choose one of these semester-long projects, and here's the data for the semester-long projects and the instructions for the semester-long project. So the graduate students, you're working on the lab for that week, the weekly lab, and you're also beginning your work on your semester project. And then the second week, you're working on the second lab, and you're continuing your semester project, and so on. Now, the labs are, Lab 1 doesn't connect to Lab 2. They're separate topics, but the semester project continues for each of the graduate students. And you'll want to follow the schedule. Now, class mechanics. There's reading quizzes. Every week we do read chapters, and the reading quizzes are just worth 3 points. They're just simple little reading quizzes. And they close on the Tuesday at 3 o'clock. So whether you're online or in person, you got to do the readings before the in-person lecture closes to get the points for the reading quiz. And there's also the assignments I mentioned, the lab assignments. There's a homework or two you'll see in the lab assignments. And then there's also forums that you could ask questions, get answers, have me answer questions through the forum or other students answer. It's an open forum. And as I said, all the tests and quizzes are all done through Moodle, and this is the Moodle link shown here. It's also accessed from the web page. Now, this is the way the Moodle class works, the Moodle page works. Now, all of the class information is on the web page. All the information about the assignments and the lecture notes and the data and all those sorts of things are all on the class web page and web lab page. The Moodle is just for you to take the tests, to look at your grades, and turn in your assignments. Moodle doesn't have the instructions for the labs. Moodle doesn't have the lecture notes. So you want to use Moodle as your connection for turning things in and checking it and taking tests. And you can look through the Moodle page here. Now, in the Moodle, we've got quizzes. Now we have the weekly reading quizzes, and we also have the periodic quizzes for the test material. And we've got 4 basic tests where we're covering a couple of chapters every couple of weeks, and then there's an exam at the end, and the exam is cumulative. And you could take a look at the dates that they're due, and you could see how things work with the quizzes, which are both as I said, the weekly or the regular exams. Now there's assignments, as I mentioned, Lab 1, Lab 2, there's 13 of them, and they're able to be looked at from the web page, get the data, get the instructions, and then turn it in through the Moodle site. And how you do it on the Moodle site is select Lab 1 for the Dropbox, and you put your PDFs in here, and you hit Save Changes. So that's how you turn it in. I'll grade it, and you'll be able to check your grades. Now, the class is a busy class. You have to stay up on the class. You can't let it go for 3 weeks and do a catch-up or pull an all-nighter to try and catch up. It just doesn't work that way. So we have to help you stay on track by setting some deadlines and setting up some penalties if you're not able to get the work done. If there's problems, of course, see me in advance and we can work something out. Now, what you do for the class is that as you're turning your work in or taking the test, you want to keep track of your grades and your points, both on the exams, on the assignments, the homework, and keep an idea of your running position against the total points for the class of the work you've turned in. Now, for the class, there's 609 points. And if you get 90% or better of the 609, you get an A. And you can see how it's made up. There's 13 labs, so almost half or a little less than half is work on the lab assignments or semester projects or the homework. The exams are all probably just a little less than half of the class. So it's all about putting your time in and doing the work and completing the assignment. And on the labs and the semester projects and homeworks, come in, ask me questions. I'm happy to help you. So there should be really no reason why you don't get full credit for all the labs and semester and homework. The quizzes you'll be doing on your own, the online exam or the reading quiz. So you get an idea. Now there's some options for additional points. You can do an optional lab, there's an optional extra lab, and there's an optional extra homework. So there's 35 extra points if you were to miss something or goof something up or get a little behind. So there is a way to catch it up. Now the grading is done, no curve. So if you get 90% of the 609 or better, you're going to get an A. There's no A minus. And the vast majority of students are in the A and B range, just watching, accumulating their points. There's just no curve. But you really want to watch your points and stay up on the class. Now I've got some other information. I've got sort of blog information on my Evernote where I list internships, where I list interesting things going on about GIS throughout the campus and in GIS, so you can follow my blog if you wish through the Evernote. This completes this brief video. Thank you.